Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Or right. I'm Reese. Across from me we have...
David.
To his left.
Irina.
And to my right.
David.
Also known as...
Noah.
Well, that's not confusing.
David, did you forget that the main character's name is David?
Yeah, you should have gone for the Bruce Willis.
Look, it'd be too obvious to go David on David, if you know what I mean.
David on David.
And that is
That's
his,
his-
so
It's
obvious.
the kind of action I'm not here for.
That's his next podcast, David on David.
David, I would love to
David
watch
discusses David.
And AJ is not currently with us for this episode, but he may join later on. Not likely, but there's a I would say a minuscule chance that he drops in mid-episode to join us. But he told us he was going to be taking a back seat on this one.
He's busy fighting some evil right now. He's crime fighting
For sure, in his trench coat and whatever, brushing up against people in the train station, seeing all sorts of crimes.
He can swim, right?
I don't know.
I've
heard it's his kryptonite.
I've seen him do a lot of things. He's taken pictures of ducks near lakes. I've never seen him in the lake.
That's a good point.
But yeah, sorry to not have him on this episode. Again, there's like I'd give it a 10% chance that he joins us later on, or more than likely he'll send us a message saying, sorry guys, can't make it.
Everything is 50-50.
But that said, the movie we're talking about tonight, whenever you may be listening, is Unbreakable. It's a movie that came out in the year of 2000, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. This is our first Shyamalan.
Is it really? Really?
Yes, I thought about it, and we have not touched a single one of this
I feel like
guy's movies.
I thought we did.
I think we've referenced him in other episodes, but we've never actually talked about one of his movies.
We haven't done Village. We haven't done Signs. We haven't done
Girl in the
Sixth
Water.
Sense. We haven't done
The Visit.
Visit. Wow, I think you're right.
Or
Yeah.
old.
That's weird because for some reason I just feel like we have.
Yeah, I think
but-
we've talked about like his crappy movies like The Happening and Last Airbender and stuff like that. Like we could have talked about Last Airbender when we did your fantasy series.
I think that's why. I think we very much considered doing Last Airbender at one point.
But I'm glad we're kicking it off on a higher note. I presume. I haven't seen y'all's ratings, but
How presumptuous.
I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that Unbreakable is a higher note than Last Airbender.
Unbreakable. Boom.
Beautiful. I like the energy, David. It's spontaneous, random.
Dun, 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 dun.
Seeing as AJ isn't here, what do y'all think he watched?
I think you nailed it earlier, Noah.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yep.
That's a TV show.
It is a show.
Shows, though.
There's
is a
also there's that Jet Li movie. What's it called? It starts with an something.
Actually, there's a movie I always confuse this with.
Or there's The Untouchables.
Untouchables.
Unbroken.
Unbroken. There you
That's
go.
the movie I always get mixed up
I
with.
could have also done something a little weird, like Expendables or something like that.
Yeah, one of those. Pick your poison.
Yeah.
He watched one of those movies and then
So if you want to watch along with AJ, go through the list.
Yeah.
I'm missing his humor.
Yeah, me too.
But Shyamalan, big name here. At one point was heralded as perhaps the next Spielberg. That didn't happen. However, I think he's carved out his own, space that is significant. Personally, I don't think he's ever going to be on the level of Spielberg because really no one is. When you think about it, he's like the ultimate director to end all directors in a way.
Denis Villeneuve.
But there's no doubt
Perhaps.
that
Who knows?
he's carved a way into like the most notable directors out there.
Yeah. And I'm glad that he's
Whether
not
good or bad.
any longer the next Spielberg because
Yeah.
that'd be almost like an aping
Well,
of that.
He's his own thing.
He's his own thing. Yeah, it is
25
better.
years later, and they're like, he could still be the next Spielberg. And you're like, it's been 25 years.
He
guys.
could have been, but he killed his own
Yeah.
reputation.
Well,
I think he's much closer to like a Hitchcock, honestly.
Yeah.
If I'm
yeah.
not exactly
I
the
could see
same,
that.
but like he has this signature thing. He has a cameo in all of his movies. They're all kind of like Twilight Zone twisty
Yeah,
type
you're
right.
like things.
I'm sold.
okay,
yeah.
Here's what I'll say about Shyamalan.
I'm glad you did that and didn't do the really annoying, insufferable thing that people do, the shamalama ding dong.
Every time.
I thought about
Every
it.
time. David was like,
I don't.
David was saying, when am I
I
going to
don't
say
do the ding dong, but I do say Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
Yeah, y'all are the worst.
We're those Americans.
No.
Well, it's an uncomfortability with pronouncing the name, and
Yeah.
I've never
Just say
actually.
Shyamalan.
You're like, if I'm gonna
Shyam-
mess it up, I'm gonna mess
Shyamalan.
it up bad, not
Yeah.
by a little
We
bit.
should
get
all
that.
practice together as a vocal warm up.
All right.
But
1,
This-
2, 3.
Shyamalan.
There you go. Go ahead,
there you
Noah.
go.
Oh no, he just appeared in the room. That's the twist ending.
Why are you
Irina
taking your
just
pants
spit
off,
her
dude?
wine out. My bad.
It shouldn't be funny yet. It isn't funny still, but it is.
It is.
Go ahead, Noah.
I was just gonna say about Shyamalan. All of his movies are ones where you kind of know what you're getting into, and you know probably at this point the twist is not going to be very interesting, but you always enjoy it.
Yes.
You always enjoy it
He-
up until the twist, and then
Noah-
it's like, dang it.
I will tell you, you know going in that he's going to do a twist,
Yeah.
but I think, except for Old, with The Visit and Split, the twist at the ending of those have been very... They're like, whoa, good twist. Like,
Yeah,
I did not
I would think so.
did not
too.
see that
Yeah.
coming.
Are you
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about
those
like
are both-
modern Shyamalan movies.
Yeah.
Even
And have you
all of
all
them.
seen Split?
Yeah.
Yes.
And have you all seen The Visit?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, The Visit is the one where they
I already.
go to their
I
grandparents.
haven't seen it, but I actually know the twist because I listened to a podcast.
Yeah, spoilers.
It's good.
Spoilers for both of them. Like Split is the twist is it's in the Unbreakable universe. Like nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, that was
I
great.
remember when
That was
I've
great.
seen that in theaters, and Irene and I saw it, and we're like, "Wait,
Yeah. And The Visit is the grandparents they go to stay with are actually not. The grandparents are dead, and these people from an insane asylum have kind of occupied their space.
Yeah.
Like these crazy old people. Like it's just creepy, good twist. Like he's still got it, you know? Yeah, I like Shyamalan. And just to rattle off his filmography, we have, I'm going to go through the whole list here. So he started with Praying with Anger, then Wide Awake. This was before he kind of found his like identity as a filmmaker. Then what I call officially the start of the Shyamalan, like as an auteur, like his signature style. We had The Sixth Sense.
yeah."
Yep. Then this movie, Signs, The Village, which I think is underrated. I think those four are honestly on the same level. The Village, I think, gets a lot of flack because it kind of fumbles parts of the ending. But I think once you go in with the expectations of how it's going to end, it's a really
I
good
haven't
movie.
seen it
So-
yet, and I really want to.
Okay, The Visit, I already said that one. Then we start to hit the downward spiral here with Lady in the Water, then The Happening, then The Last Airbender. That's a solid, like, man, Lady in the Water, that not really feeling that one. Like, there's still some integrity to that movie. Like, it's not outright bad.
I've heard it has its followers.
I remember actually kind of liking it, but
but it's clearly not on the level
Yeah.
of the previous four.
it's almost kind of like the experience of watching The Village, where you're starting it and you think it's going one way and you're really excited about where it's going, then it switches. Almost with his filmography, it felt that way,
Yeah.
where like his movies, you were, I'm really excited about these themes that he's covering, and then with Lady in the Water, it just feels so different that
Yeah.
you're kind of, because you're not prepped for it, you don't feel as excited about it.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of like that movie.
I also think this is when he started, like he had kids and he started to be influenced by his
Yes.
kids. Like Lady in the Water was based off his
It
kids'
was
idea.
a love letter to his daughter, and because of the fairy tales he would read to her, and that was one of the things he would
Yeah.
read to her. Or
So yeah, I like that.
But I think it kind of hurt him a little bit because he almost like bended too much to that. More like with Last Airbender,
Yep.
he would not have made that if his kids weren't big fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, it's so strange because like I equally hate him and love him for that because it's really sweet of him to dedicate a movie to his
he
kids.
went for it,
And
he just
I think
failed.
it's just like, bro, like why'd you have to do like
Well,
What, you don't like Ong and
Ahang
Katera and Sokka?
Soka?
Okay, anyway, let's get
yeah.
there. Let's get there. Yeah, we it's The Happening, which is a bad movie, but I defend it because it's a fun movie to watch. Actually, if given Lady in the Water or The Happening, I watch The Happening just because there's more entertainment value to it.
You would.
Wait, The Happening, that's the one...
Where the people, where the plants that kill people, like it gets people, like in the air.
They all kill themselves.
Oh, is that the one Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Yo, Mikey Mock.
Wait. Are you sure we didn't cover that for the podcast?
We didn't.
No, we
The
didn't.
Happening, I've never seen it.
We didn't watch The Happening.
Didn't want a sequel. No franchise.
Whose
potential
series do you think covered
The scene I always
Reese?
remember from that movie is the guy that starts up that mower, and he just gets out and then lays
Walks
down
in
in
front
front
of
of it.
Yeah, they're.
Less effective than Sinister.
I agree.
That goes for most movies.
You're right, though. Similar like death scenes. And now we're at Last Airbender. I think this is the bottom of the barrel.
Cherry
Yeah.
on the
I
top.
think we all agree that this is where, I don't know, it's just, this doesn't even feel like a Shyamalan movie. It feels like just an attempt, like, what this felt like to me was a movie that, and we'll probably talk about it sometime on this podcast, so maybe I shouldn't get too in-depth with it, but it felt like when a studio hands a big budget production to someone who's only done like TV commercials or something, and it's like, hey, make a big budget fantasy, and that's what you get. And it's honestly kind of similar because Shyamalan's, yes, he's worked with big budgets before, but nothing like massive scale action
Yeah.
family fantasy. So it's just like out of his wheelhouse completely.
Yeah.
Then we have After Earth, a movie that just doesn't exist. That I haven't even seen it. It's the only one out of his filmography that I haven't seen, but that's that Will Smith, Jaden Smith.
I worked at the
sci-fi.
movie theater when that came out.
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot about
Exactly.
that.
It doesn't
I
exist.
saw so many trailers for that.
I did
We had this
too.
giant poster at the movie theater that
Yeah.
was like right by the concession stand. And I was
Yeah.
like, I should see that movie. And then everybody that came
I'm
out,
pretty
I remember
sure-
people were like, don't see it.
Yeah.
I'm
I've heard
pretty sure that was that the same year Jack Reacher came out?
probably.
Okay,
And like
I
Oblivion
remember
and all
sitting
those other
in
movies.
theaters going through trailers, and I saw the Jack Reacher trailer, and then immediately after it was that trailer.
Yeah.
And I thought,
you see it so many
wow,
times.
this is like way too similar.
Yeah, and I remember it as like from what I can tell, the movie was not well reviewed, but it wasn't like abysmal like Last Airbender was.
Right.
And that's probably just because you've got Will Smith and Jaden Smith. Although Will Smith apparently plays such a stone-faced, like personality-less character in that.
Which is the antithesis of every role he's ever done.
I know, like, hey, Will Smith, be not charismatic, which is
Like that, he probably had to work more acting wise to not be charismatic.
Yeah, like, imagine you gave Dwayne Johnson an office worker job.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, don't be funny. Don't be happy.
Exactly.
And now, thankfully, we hit an upswing after this. Shyamalan comes out, and by the way, no one wants to hand this guy any money to do anything, so he self-funds his projects from here, and they get picked up by companies. So he self-funded The Visit. That was his big comeback, like, oh, he's still got some of that mojo. Mm-hmm. Then he did Split, which everyone loved. It was a massive hit. That was also all I don't know if it was all self-funded, but he put a lot of his own money into that
Right.
I
movie.
just love production companies who are like, make up your mind.
Yeah.
Like, we want to do it, but no, we don't know what we're going to get.
Yeah, and then Glass, which I don't want to spoil the results for that since we will be covering it. I guess I kind of already said something about Split, but whatever. And now, last year, we had Old, and next year, we have his newest movie, Knock at the Cabin.
Ooh, I like the name of that one.
Yeah,
Is it
so
wait, when?
next year at some point. I don't know what month. But yeah, apparently it's like a movie that's meant to look like it's one take throughout the whole thing.
The
like,
1917 of movies.
yeah, but I mean, they do a lot of like the fudging of it, making it look like it's the camera's never clipping, you know?
For the whole movie?
Yep.
That's cool.
I don't know why, but that just seems
Exasperating.
exhausting.
No, it's not
Yeah.
like.
But
they-
it sounds cool.
Well, that's what 1917 was, as you
I
said.
know.
And it
That's
looked
why I
awesome.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. You haven't seen 1917?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so cool. But yeah, this is filmography. Normally, I don't go in depth in a filmography, but Shyamalan's a big name, so I thought it would be good for us to kind of lay that groundwork. But Unbreakable, he's still kind of untested at this point and had a big hit with Sixth Sense. And this is kind of the sophomore outing. Even though he had directed movies before Sixth Sense, this is like, is this the same guy that, like, are we going to get another Sixth Sense level thing? But the movie stars Bruce Willis, again, from Sixth Sense, so they must have had a pretty good relationship from the first movie. Samuel L. Jackson, Robin Wright, Spencer Treat Clark. Movie was written by M. Night Shyamalan. And I don't normally do this up top, but when it's significant, I list it here. But the music was by James Newton Howard.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Amazing score here. For those that are new to this show, though, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, David, this being your miniseries, The Heroes, It's Complicated miniseries, had you seen Unbreakable before your prep for this episode?
Yes, I have. I watched it at your family's house probably a good 10 years ago, give or take.
Wow.
And
that was your first time with it?
First time and only time. So rewatching it, I knew the beats of the movie, but you completely lose. Like when you only have a one viewing in 10 years, you completely forget everything else. It's like I know kind of what happens, but everything else in the middle is just muddled. Yeah. So very refreshing to watch again, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Pleasantly surprised.
You weren't even
Who is that?
doing anything.
I was doing me.
Dang, so David on David
content.
I'll start an OnlyFans next week.
Whoa, I wasn't quite going there, but sure.
Next week, huh?
Noah, how about you?
I have in fact seen this. It's a classic for me. That's all I'll say because it'll spoil things.
You're right. When you say classic, nobody knows what your opinion is.
That's all I'll say because it will spoil things.
It will spoil things.
No, I like the. I wanted that to be the pull quote.
It will spoil things.
Irina, how about you?
Yeah. I actually can't remember the first time I watched this. I would guess either kind of late middle school, early high school, possibly. That's when we, I think Mom put it on a few times before. But I remember just really, really liking this. And I knew I had seen Signs before this movie.
What kind of signs?
I think this was for a while just considered to me like an underdog film of his work that I never heard anyone talk about ever.
Yeah.
And so I thought for some reason it slipped under the radar. So when I did see the reveal in Split, I got incredibly excited.
It's kind of funny what time does, because now you look back on Shyamalan's career and like this is one of the trinity. Like it is. Like it's Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs, and that's like peak Shyamalan, you know? But at the time, it was regarded as the kind of sophomore slump.
Yeah.
And which is not fair to put on it because Sixth Sense was such a gargantuan hit that
good.
That no matter what he did afterwards, it was going to seem not like only
not quite the same,
James Cameron is the only director that could follow something like Sixth Sense with something bigger.
Yeah.
But
I do want to also state, because people need to hate me more before going this, I didn't care for Signs all that much.
Well, I do hate you.
David. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say that you said the trilogy there with, and every time Trinity. Yeah. Every time I hear someone bring up Signs, I'm like, is it that good though?
I think you need to watch it again.
I've seen it more than 3 to 4 times already, and
I'll say about Signs, I think the dialogue's kind of like weirdly off, but on purpose. But the movie is really good. Like it's and you're wrong.
It's on technicality. It's directed well. It's filmed well.
I think
maybe it's just not my kind of movie.
I could see it being one of those things where it's not your favorite. So when you see people just gush over it constantly, it kind of just feels weird to you.
My history with this movie, I'm probably the one that saw this before everyone else, because Irina, it sounds like you saw it around the Signs time.
Yeah.
I think I saw this right when it came out on DVD, because I remember buying, or I don't know if I bought it or I was like tugged at Mom's shirt like, hey, let's go to the store to get this. But
probably you rented it.
Yeah, I remember I owned the DVD because it had this cool slip cover.
It was like glass.
Well, yeah, it was like it was one of those cardboard DVDs that had a slip over that would cover the glass, but you could see the glass in like this kind of cutout in front of it, and you'd pull it out. Yeah, and then the DVD would be all glass, and you'd open it up. There's like a double disc, like one with special features and one with the movie. Anyway, saw it on DVD when it came out, probably year 2000, 2001. It hit me at just the right time where I was starting to, like, I don't know, be interested in darker, more mature, I don't know, like, still not super hard R stuff, but
Is your edgy phase?
yeah. But I was getting into, like, ooh, this seems like a little above my, my area, and I'm kind of into that. So, yeah, it hit me at the exact right time. And at the time, it was I didn't follow Shyamalan a lot. I knew he did Sixth Sense and Signs, but this was my favorite of the three at the time. With that said, David, we're back to you yet again. Let's take it away with that story and just read the whole thing.
I am.
Okay.
Are you ready for the truth? I believe comic book heroes walk the earth. I believe you're one of those individuals. I'm just an ordinary man.
No, you're not. Why do you keep saying that?
It's hard for many to believe there are extraordinary things inside themselves.
Don't worry. I won't tell anyone.
It's all right to be afraid, David, because this part won't be like a comic book. Bad is winning. It's time for someone like you.
Unbreakable.
I bet my dad could beat up your dad.
David Dunn is a college football stadium security guard and former star quarterback who boards East Rail 177, which suddenly speeds up, derails, and crashes. As his son Joseph watches news coverage of a train crash, he realizes that it's the train that David was on. David wakes up at the hospital, and everyone is shocked that he survived uninjured. Also, saying David so many times is just weird.
Just keep going.
After a memorial service for the victims, David finds a note on his car windshield asking if he's ever been sick before and inviting him to a limited edition art gallery exhibit operated by comic book expert Elijah Price. David realizes that he has indeed never been ill, with a single exception, and goes with Joseph to meet Elijah, who suffers from brittle bone disease. Gosh, this is one of the worst Wikipedia plots.
They did not look up the actual
This is
term.
terrible.
Yeah, we take these from Wikipedia. Sorry.
Elijah explains his theory that his own physical frailty must be matched by someone on the other end of the spectrum who cannot be broken. David is unsettled and leaves when Elijah admits that he believes superheroes are real, but later finds he can bench press 350 pounds, well above his expectations. Gosh, this is so something. All right.
Just go with it. Sell it.
Joseph idolizes his father, believing him to be a superhero, although David maintains that he's just an ordinary man. David challenges Elijah's theory with an incident from his childhood where he almost drowned later and contracted pneumonia. Elijah suggests that maybe it's merely his weakness, and that David recalls his car accident that ended his career, in which he had been unharmed and ripped off the car door with his bare hands to rescue his girlfriend Audrey, and that he may have feigned his injury from the crash to quit football because Audrey disliked the violent sport. Under Elijah's influence, David realizes that his intuition for picking out dangerous people during security checks is actually an extrasensory perception. Consciously honing this ability, David discovers that this touch contact with people brings him visions of criminal acts that they have committed. As people bump into him in a crowd, he senses the crimes they have perpetrated, such as theft, assault, and rape. He finds one criminal that he can confront, a sadistic janitor who has invaded a home, killed the father, and is now holding his wife and 2 children captive. David, wearing a raincoat as a disguise, follows the janitor to the victim's house and frees the children. Also, I don't think it's a disguise. I think it's just raining and he's wearing a raincoat.
It's kind of, it serves both purposes, I think.
It also says security on
It's
it.
a
really- yeah.
convenient circumstance.
It's a very identifiable jacket. But
Doesn't
anyway.
matter.
David strangles the janitor to death, but not before the janitor kills the mother. The next morning, David shows Joseph a newspaper article featuring a sketch of an anonymous hero whom Joseph recognizes as his father, and he tearfully promises to keep it secret. David meets Elijah's elderly mother, who explains the difference between villains who fight heroes with physical strength and those who use their intelligence. Elijah asks David to shake his hand to celebrate his rescue, which reveals that Elijah was responsible for numerous high-profile accidents, including David's train crash, in an effort to find someone who fits his idea of a superhero. An emotional Elijah tells a horrified David, "Now that we know who you are, I know who I am," indicating that he sees himself as an arch-villain and David's nemesis. He adopts his childhood nickname, Mr. Glass, as his supervillain moniker. David reports Elijah's crimes to the police, and Elijah is confined to a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane.
Okay, movie opens with Bruce Willis, David Dunn. So they're already doing this comic book thing where it's like, you know,
alliteration.
In Marvel movies, it starts double D's.
Clark, Clark Kent.
Peter Parker.
There you go. Donnie Darko.
Tony Stark.
Matt Murdock. Shut up. Shut up. Like, you know what I mean. They're like all
I know.
like Hulk, what's his name?
Matt Murdock.
No.
Hogan?
Stan Lee had this whole way of organizing the superheroes back in the day, in which he'd have the same letter for their first and last name, so he could, easily identify them.
Yeah, but we have David Dunn in the train. You see this thing, like he pulls his ring off as he sees a pretty lady sit next to him. There's this girl watching him, and he's like kind of smiles at her. But we get the sense that, this guy's married, but there's problems. Which what I love about Shyamalan is he's so good about saying things without saying things.
Yep.
Yeah.
All throughout this movie, like there's so much economic storytelling that. Like, yes, there are times in this movie where it's kind of cringe, or not cringe, but it's kind of like, okay, you didn't need to say that because it's already been inferred through everything you're doing. Like, what I think about Shyamalan is, I think he's smarter than he thinks he is, or I think he doesn't give the audience quite enough credit.
To be able to follow.
I think he is as smart as he thinks he is.
I think he's equally as smart. Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
I think he's no.
But there's times where he does. What I think about him though is I don't think he has faith enough that people are going to catch on to what he's trying to say.
I disagree.
But his filmmaking or the cinematography and just how things are staged are more indicative of what is happening than what he thinks people are grasping onto. I don't know.
Well, so the way I was going to literally bring up this exact point, but in the exact opposite way.
Well, the thing is with Samuel L. Jackson's character, he's always spelling out like kind of his villain hero plan to the, and it's like he's talking to the audience almost, and it's like that's not really necessary because we get it,
But there's Well, the thing is, this movie has a lot. It's a slow-paced movie, I would say, in a good way.
Yeah,
like it's not boring, but it's very deliberate in its dialogue, and it focuses more on the framing and movement of the people. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of subtlety in this movie where they don't say anything.
There's a mix of both. I think there's a lot of subtlety, and then there's a lot of beat you over the head obvious themes.
Well, most of which come from Mr. Glass, but everything else feels like, I don't know, you have to infer it.
But to touch on that slowness that you're talking about, this is one of those weird movies that is slow, but it never feels like plotting. Like it never feels like, oh gosh, like look at my watch, when is this gonna end? Yeah. And I think part of that is because when he was constructing the script for this movie, which was during The Sixth Sense, when he was filming The Sixth Sense and he was writing the script, or at least jotting down ideas about his next movie, Unbreakable, he had it, originally he was going to tell a 3-act, like your typical superhero origin story structure, but he found that he was only interested in the first act. He liked the parts where the superhero or the person who was to end up a hero started realizing they were different or special, and then like start to act on it. He didn't like the suiting up part and then the battle with the villain part.
So Hancock should have taken a note out of that book.
Yeah, so literally what he did was he took the first act, or this is presumably what he did, the first act of his original idea and expanded it into movie form of like, you're seeing the first act versus a complete 3-act structure.
Yeah.
Which I think is fascinating, and it really works. in this specific case. I don't know if anyone else could pull that off, but I think it works here.
Spielberg could do it.
But did y'all have any issues with the slow pacing of this movie?
Oh no, not
Not at all. I think it unfolded perfectly.
Not even the first time I watched it did I feel like, oh, this is really long. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's weird because you are aware that it's slow, but in a way you feel like it needs to be.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It feels like a deliberate game of chess. Like you're never bored when you're playing a very slow game of chess, but like it's definitely not the high, speed chess excitement that you get from other movies.
Yeah.
He gives you a little breadcrumb and then another breadcrumb.
Just enough.
And it's all, it's like the best bread.
It's the best.
That's what keeps me coming back
this
for
is
more.
a good breadcrumb.
Well, I
that
think
brioche?
the other aspect that really helps is the framing of all his shots too. Like there's always something interesting to look at, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of symmetry going on, and I find that with each scene you're kind of like glancing around the room they're in or just at people's faces. And I think a lot of the time some people don't really like the slowness because there's not a quick reaction time.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's asking you to just sort of sit back and observe for a minute, like just look at these people's faces, actually look at them. Don't just be distracted by a lot of motion.
Yeah.
For a superhero movie, there's not a lot of action, but I find myself being really okay with that.
It's rare that you see movies that are this short. Like, I'm not saying it's like the shortest movie ever, but it's like an hour 40 to 50. Like, hour 42, I think, is actually what it's at. But yet, it is so confident in just, like, taking its time. And it's weirdly perfect, but it shouldn't be. It kind of just shows you how filmmakers have kind of lost this ability over time. Like you have these big bloated superhero movies that somehow still don't feel like a full meal, even though they're like 2+ hours long.
Yeah.
Yet this one, he literally just did one act of your typical superhero movie and just made it feel like it was just the kind of weirdly the perfect package deal, I guess. But let's talk about our cast here. We've got Bruce Willis as David Dunn. We have Samuel L. Jackson as Elijah Price, our two co-leads here. Bruce Willis as David Dunn. What do y'all think about this as a Bruce Willis performance? Is it upper tier for you? How close does this come to the top?
Pretty close. I'm trying to think of his other movies.
I mean, you got Die Hard.
I think Die Hard and Sixth Sense are the two others that you can compare for maybe best actor.
Well, you got Fifth Element, 12 Monkeys. You have.
I have to
he's
say,
good in all of them.
I think I like him in this equally the way I like him in Sixth Sense, mostly because I think what Shyamalan does for him is he brings out the more sober side of Bruce Willis, where a lot of his other roles, like in, you would even think like Pulp Fiction or Die Hard, he has a slight cockiness to him.
Yeah.
That's almost, I don't know. He's usually coming off as a little bit of a bad boy. But in both of these movies, it's like he's someone that's been traumatized or just sad and tired, but a good person. So I like seeing this different side of Bruce Willis acting in general. So he never really seems like a actor that really is a chameleon, but you see like very mild shades of different aspects of his personality.
Yeah. I think the key to a good Bruce Willis performance is having marital problems.
It does seem to
He
be.
looks like a guy that has marital problems.
Hold on. So Pulp Fiction, slight marital problems. We have Sixth Sense.
Die Hard, definite marital problems.
Sixth Sense, definite marital problems.
I don't know if that was it was
That
as
one
strong
doesn't
in
really
Sixth
count.
Sense, but
Okay,
I mean,
here's the thing,
it was
guys.
focused.
It's
marital
it's
problems in that he
implied.
died and she didn't.
He's just always method acting
Well,
marital problems.
It focuses
Yeah.
on his marriage. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
I think this is a good subdued performance from him. There's times where that Shyamalan-ness comes in where it's just like, be awkwardly silent for a little longer than is like recognizable as a human
Yeah.
personality. Like this comes full-fledged in Signs, by the way.
Funny because
Like in Sixth Sense, people act a little more human to me than they do in this. And then
Yeah.
in this, I just don't think a person who like when Robin Wright's talking to him or like asks him a question, I don't think a human being would stand there for
Yeah.
10 full seconds and then finally say like one
You know-
monosyllabic word. But
You know what's really weird about that, though?
what?
If you, I don't know if he intended it this way, but it's almost like it forces you to focus on what's happening. Because there have been times where like I'll be putting something on in the background and I'm not looking at it, and there's like a long pause, and I look up and I'm like, what's going on? Because there's silence, and you're like, wait, usually there's just noise or something,
Yeah.
you know? And
But-
it's almost like it's intentionally being like, no, we're not feeding you the same like constant drivel.
Yeah.
Like you have to really pay attention to these moments because it's like, oh, this is uncomfortably long. So
But Bruce Willis is literally doing that thing though, like they do in like reality TV, where it's like, do you take this bride? And then, all right, hold for a long time so that we can like wait 10 seconds.
dramatic music.
Cut to commercial, and then on the other side of the commercial break, you'll say yes or
Yes.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's a
Hey, have we all here had a marital problem like this? I don't know. Like maybe he was really contemplating it. We don't know the ins and outs of the relationship before this.
no. He was definitely thinking
So-
like, hey, I've definitely tried to maybe strike something up with a couple of gals, but ultimately no. I had.
But he also seems to be interested in her. and
Well, it
she's
would have been
trying
funny if
now.
he was completely honest though, and he's like, no, but I tried. Like,
But I tried.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is painful.
yeah.
Yep.
Samuel L. Jackson, though, as Elijah Price in this movie, we see a bit of his origin story. He's born with all these broken bones. I didn't go into Dunn either. He was miraculously the sole survivor of the train. So back to Elijah. Just wanted to establish that.
Yeah.
But Elijah Price, born with all these broken bones, they're like, oh, did you drop him? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then his mom gets him a comic book, makes him go out to the playground to try and maybe face his fears, but also, hey, you'll be rewarded if you face your fears. And then this kind of conjures up his love for comics and also his like, oh, if I am this, there must be the opposite of me.
Yeah.
And that would give me meaning to life if I were able to find that. But yeah, Samuel L. Jackson portrayed this character. One funny anecdote when I was watching the special features, this is a quote from him. My only contribution to this movie was purple.
Well,
He loves purple.
And what was funny about after that, though, he said his other contribution was that he wanted the cane to be made of glass.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah. So,
He
but
does really like
I just thought it was
purple.
so
Mace
funny. He was like, oh, that totally lines up with Mace Windu and his purple lightsaber and all that. But he likes it because it means royalty or whatever.
Windu. Yeah.
But Samuel L. Jackson as Elijah Price, what did y'all think of this performance?
loved it.
Oh, I really
It's
like him
great.
as this role.
It's actually one of my favorite Sam Jackson roles.
I
There's
think
a lot of good ones too.
one of the elements of this movie that I really like is Elijah Price kind of acts like he's the only one living in a world of color,
Yeah.
and everyone else is just kind of
No one else sees
experiencing
it.
this like boring, mundane, like just beige existence where everything is like consumerism. Consumerism and violence, but even the violence isn't even that exciting because it's just generic at this point. So and you can see that in the performances of everyone in the movie, even background characters. Like there's that just awkward just standing there while you're rehearsing lines that should be serious, but it's just at this point that's just life. But Elijah Price always, like, he's always animated, like when he's talking, and he's always going on about the comic books. Like he's the only person in this that actually says more than a few words at a time.
He's not on screen more than Bruce Willis, but I'm pretty sure he has more lines.
Yeah.
I haven't checked this, but
Well, yeah,
That's
but
because he
Bruce
has
Willis
long like monologues.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Bruce Willis deals and nods and
Eyebrow raises.
he says no a couple times.
yeah.
But yeah, these two characters are kind of drawn together. David Dunn, he's a security guard. Elijah has been kind of on the hunt for these, I don't know, survivors of things, I guess, at this point. He leaves a little car or business card or a note on his car to, like, hey, I don't know what it says exactly. Do y'all remember? It's like just hey, come see me or something like that.
Hey, come see me. It's
Hit me
more
up,
like
bro.
He's saying, when was the last time you were sick?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
that's the
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
it
yeah.
asks.
Yeah, so before he actually goes to see Elijah Price, he asks his person at his work, like, hey, when was the last time I've been sick? Look it up in the system. And then his boss comes to him and like, I get it. You've never been sick. Here's your $40 a week raise, but that's as much as I'm going. Yada, yada. And
Comedy.
yeah. I mean, it works within the movie. There's these little kind of lighter moments that fit within this. But he does end up meeting Elijah Price at his limited edition comics shop. And he kind of gets the wackadoo vibe from him when Elijah Price starts to like talk about superheroes and supervillains
his
and
theory.
his purpose and like I don't know.
It does give off like, something a little wrong with this guy.
Yeah, he brings his kid too at this point, which we haven't talked about him at all. But Spencer Treat Clark is his son, Joseph Dunn.
I think he does a great job, by the way.
He's very like Haley Joel Osment 2.0, like slightly older version. Like you couldn't get Haley Joel Osment from Sixth Sense, so
He knows how to direct kids.
he finds kids that have like a unique look, but they're not like not.
Well, no, they look uniquely normal.
Yeah. And this kid does a really good job. I feel like it just.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good casting across the board.
Well,
Yeah.
normally the kid actors, especially I feel like in modern movies, is just over the top.
Yeah.
The emotions, like directors try to treat them as if they are normal adults.
They grab all the cute kids, but everyone forgets
Yes.
in movies there are ugly kids as well.
There is. By the way,
like-
that's a
Ugly kids need
are-
Let it be known.
representation.
you know, a funny thing I just realized, like people called Shyamalan the next Spielberg. A funny thing that is actually true. Spielberg is really good at working with kids.
Yeah.
Shyamalan, you think about it, like he had Haley Joel Osment in Sixth Sense. He had Spencer Treat Clark, is that his name?
Yeah.
In this one, and then he has Abigail Breslin in Signs.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Wait, that was Abigail Breslin?
yeah.
Huh.
So, man, hey, this guy knows how to work with kids too.
Yeah.
So there's a funny parallel there. Continue though.
He's the alter ego of Spielberg.
I don't even remember what was being said.
We were talking about Michael Treat Clark.
Well, oh yeah, I think he does a great job, and I'm glad that he was picked for this role because he is like exactly a middle-aged kid. Or sorry,
middle-aged, young,
middle
40
school
years old.
middle school aged kid. He is exactly a middle-aged kid.
It's like Brennan from Step Brothers. More weights, Dad. God.
Don't touch my drum set.
You know what I meant. Middle
Yeah, gotcha.
school aged
Gotcha.
kid.
Gotcha.
Specifically. No, I think he does a great job. I also think one of the most this causes me to have like shadow pains every single time he falls down those stairs. Not
Yes.
the kid, but-
So yeah, leading up to that moment,
Price. Yeah.
yeah. Elijah.
Dunn left Price knowing that okay, this guy's kind of a kook, but it also leaves him with this little like a little thought in the back of his head, like maybe there's something to this. But Elijah Price meets him at a game he's working security on, and at the same time, Price is like kind of brushed up against a dude and like, oh, there's something up with this guy. See the guy?
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. But he brushed up against this guy and got this vision of like this
Silver gun with a
handgun,
black hand grip.
handgun with a silver or black, what David
Silver
said.
gun with a black hand grip.
And for whatever reason, I think Dunn is willing to talk to Price because now he's starting to think back on like, maybe there's something to this. So he's like, yeah, I just got a weird vision about this guy, but he ultimately still decides to kind of cast aside what Price is saying at this point and says, hey, I got you tickets, but hey, stay away from now from us at this. Like, I don't want to get involved with any of this. Price later on gets in his car, but then sees the camo dude walking down the staircase, follows him, and man, Shyamalan is so good at directing the scene because just the camera, like you get this unwieldy feeling as he's going down the stairs. You know something's going to happen, and Shyamalan did such a good job of establishing just how frail or brittle this guy is that you know something bad's about to happen.
Well, he preps it by you seeing the cane shattering on the stair steps, and you're like, oh, no.
And as the camera turns, though, it was so good. It was like, oh, no. Like, I had to turn away because I didn't want to see the bone breakage as he falls down the staircase.
And the thing is, like, this shows you that you don't necessarily need a lot of gore for people to feel a moment.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, like, sometimes this kind of thing is worse than just a lot of gore because you can't really relate to gore. But when you are given like little teasers of things you could possibly imagine feeling, it's like, oh, no.
Yep. And when he said it also weirdly effective was he was like, when he said he had 54 breaks in his life, I was like, that's a lot, but almost not as much as I expected in a weird way. And the fact that when he takes this tumble, there's at least like 3 significant breaks that you can see. And that's like, when you think about how significant that is in terms of how much damage he just did to follow that one guy.
Right.
Like I was
surprised it was only his leg that was injured for that.
Well, it was like his leg and his arm, and then he hit his arm. I know he had his leg. I think his leg was just more significantly damaged than whatever else was. But then I like that scene of him upside down watching the guy go away. It's like validation for following him because he sees that he has this gun in his...
Yeah.
And he's like, dang, it's real.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I like about this superhero origin story too, is it's so different than what we're used to. We learn on the same pace that David Dunn learns. Like he doesn't know, we don't know. And the second that he like touches that person, he starts thinking about the fact that he gets premonitions for people who have done something bad.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, that's his superpower. And then he starts to realize it. And so we kind of learn with him. And I think that is different than what we normally get in superhero movies.
Oh, for sure. And also, again, going back to this, just having the act 1 of a normal superhero movie being stretched into full, like the movie, you get so much more time to explore like what it's actually like to deal with these types of things. Like it makes you like me look at other superhero movies, I don't know, as lesser in a way because they just feel the need to rush through these moments, like the human moments. In a way, in a superhero movie, the most human moments are in the beginning when you're like, oh, I'm not who I thought I was. Something different is happening.
Right.
And coping with that. That's this whole movie. Coping with this.
Here's what I like about it too, is that the character they chose was, this middle-aged security guard guy. He's the everyman instead of, this kind of chosen one archetype that they almost always go with.
Again, playing to Bruce Willis's strengths, because he's always best when he's playing the everyman.
Yeah.
Like Die Hard, again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what if the everyman was thrown into a terrorist situation? What would he do?
Maybe that's why he is very typecast as the, he's the regular guy, but he's doing something amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the when the sun begins to believe that his father is special. So they have let's talk about the weight scene where he's working out.
that
Yeah,
scene.
he's working out, and his son is
Keeps adding more weight.
his son loves his dad, but as much as his dad is telling him like, "Hey, that was unsafe. You didn't take the weights off, and that could have been dangerous." His son is like, "Well, we're gonna keep putting them on. I won't tell him, but we're gonna keep putting them on." I love when, like when he gets up and he realizes that his son put on more weight, and
Okay,
and it's
the way
the-
you say that.
and it's the turn of it, like put on more. Let's put on more. Or,
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
what the line was, Arena. You have it.
It's like go. He essentially says like go up 25 or something like that. Or 50
It's not
or
quite
whatever.
that. It was like
Like add another weight.
I don't know why I can't remember it, but it was.
Well,
it was
it's
perfectly
something
delivered.
more along the lines
Let's
of
put on
you
more or
didn't
something.
you didn't take anything off, did you? He's like, no.
Oh, okay, guys. What happened was he asked him to take weight off because he already
No,
added some.
that's
No,
what
I'm saying like when he realizes that
No,
his
yeah.
son put on more,
So
and then he's
it's-
like, "Let's put on more."
Yeah,
or something.
exactly. So
Yeah.
the thing was basically that you didn't take anything off, did you? It's like, no, you added. Yeah. It's like, should we do more? Okay.
He's like, yeah, no, that's exactly it. He's like, I kind of want to see where this goes too. The thing I love about this part is it's actually a father-son bonding
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
and he's like accepting in this moment
It's-
his son's perspective on
It's
him.
a very unique don't tell mom kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah,
because he
it
said,
is.
if anything goes wrong, what do? Go up to mom.
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
No, I like it a lot. And you can tell based on the relationship that normally he's pretty distant from his family, and it's really nice to see him, kind of create a sort of connection with his son in the form of him being super dad.
Well, and we learn later because okay, so up to this point, we don't really know what their family dynamic is like. We know what him and his wife,
But you can make
is
you can make an assumption based on characters.
I know. And when I first watched this, even rewatching it,
Yeah.
I didn't remember. I always thought he and his son seemed to have some chemistry. So I was like, okay, well, who knows what that was like. But then when he goes to the school, when they call him up, like, I guess, what was it? Him and his son was like, my dad could be your dad kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that look. Like,
Yeah.
right.
And so, and then they're talking about, like, why did you call me and not my wife? And she's like, well, we could get a hold of her. And, why not call you? She deals with this kind of stuff. What stuff? My son. Like, she deals
Joseph
with
stuff.
Joseph
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, so he does not have a good relationship.
Well, I
with
think
his
it
son,
was,
typically.
there are little clues here and there, but it seems like he was planning to move to New York based on some discussion they had. So she was going to have rights of Joseph, basically, to take care of him. So I think, like, I could infer that with his character, he's trying to distance himself because, that could create some weirdness there where your wife has custody, but you don't. So she's probably going to take over most of the scholastic aspects of it. So
I like that school-lastic.
Scholastic.
Yeah.
Speaking of the wife, we haven't talked about Robin Wright yet in this movie. I think, and this is partially the writing, which is very good, but also her performance. She turns what is usually in most movies a thankless role, where the wife who is the main character is having all the cool stuff happen to him, and then the wife is just worried by the
Yeah.
sidelines. But no, in this case, it's much more, I feel like, complex and nuanced.
Yeah.
And
You care for her the first moment you see her.
yeah, and I think she really turns what a role that would be limes into lemonade,
Yeah.
or lemons into lemonade, where it's
Wow, she did a lot of
Wow.
work.
yeah,
She
a lot of
converted
extra
the
work.
limes into
Yeah,
lemon
yeah.
and made lemonade.
But there's so many scenes with her that could just be cast aside
Yeah.
Yeah.
scenes, like the big scene where she's asking if he was with anyone else, she wouldn't care. Yet
Yeah.
you know that she
Oh,
would.
that's the
there are
scene, man.
layers to those line
She does
readings.
such a good job.
where she says she doesn't care, but when he says no, she clearly did care, and it's heartbreaking.
down.
Yeah, it's like
I do also think you have to also credit the writing there too.
That's what I said.
It is
I said it
very
is
good
the writing,
writing.
but it's also
So-
her performance.
You can't have a good performance without good writing.
Well, she nails it, but the writing there is like he took very good care of
Yeah.
every supporting role.
So I think this is something I really love about this movie that I don't know if other films of his do the same thing, but when a character is going through emotion like that, he doesn't cut to anyone else. Like if they're talking to someone, that person is usually pretty much stock still and non-emotive, but it's almost like they're making sure, no, like she is the important one right now. You need to be looking at what she's doing, how she's feeling, and we're focusing on that alone.
We
We
only
don't
see the
we
back
don't
of
need
his
to be
head.
distracted by cuts to other people's faces or other people's reactions. You're just observing her.
Yeah.
And it's he does that too with Bruce Willis when he's in the hospital after the train wreck, where he's sitting on the gurney and we're only seeing his reactions and they're very minor, but you kind of need to be forced to just look at one person. It's actually kind of refreshing to just watch one person act, and it's a little too distracting when you're like jumping between a bunch
When
of
this-
people
people.
are trying to
this
steal
movie-
scenes from each
Yeah.
other.
This
Yeah.
movie is training you to slow down because we are so used to fast-paced movies where there's lots of people, lots of action, lots of dialogue.
Yeah.
This one is like you get one person and a little bit of dialogue. Focus.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, that's different.
These days, this movie would release and it'd make 50 million.
Yeah, it would not
Yeah.
work
Like-
nowadays.
It's so sad.
I'm glad it exists.
And back to Robin Wright, though, I think some of my favorite scenes in this movie involve her character, like especially the setup and then payoff of her, like this line earlier in the movie where they're trying to rekindle their romance. It's very sweet, where they're like, "Hey, let's go on our first date again,"
Yeah.
and she asks him like, "Hey, so when did you think that we were gonna go? Like, when did you start to have doubts about our relationship?" And he says, like, "I had a nightmare and I didn't want to wake you up to tell you, like, to, just tell you about it." And then the payoff to that later on was like, I think I almost cried when it was just like, it was like
was so
he's carrying her up the stairs and she's just looking at him like unblinking almost.
Yeah.
And he lays her down and she says something like, "Oh, well, why'd you carry me up here?" I don't know what she said exactly. And he was like, "I had a nightmare." And it was just
Yeah.
like, this is so like,
good.
I had a bad dream. He said I
had a bad dream or
so
something.
good.
Like, and I was like,
I think she said like, "Well, it's over now," or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
it touches you right in the heart.
yeah, but you think about how important her character is. Like when you think of Unbreakable, my fifth thought is Robin Wright. But now
Yeah.
now rewatching it, she has gone up so much.
Yeah.
in my
I love
estimation
Robin
in
Wright.
this
It's
movie.
like the more you live and have relationships with other people, the more that kind of stuff affects you.
And
Yeah,
I do want to
but-
clarify that spot too. The reason that part is also so impactful is because she asked him earlier when he first realized when he was becoming more distant and felt like they were kind of working away from each other.
Yeah,
he
that's
said,
what Reese brought up.
did you already bring up that
Yeah.
specific thing in connection to this?
Yeah, the date they
why
were
don't
having.
you
where,
at least finish
Yeah.
what
yeah,
you were
go
going to
ahead.
say?
Sorry.
you're fine.
He said that he had a bad dream.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Man.
Oh yeah, he did say
Yeah.
that.
No, apparently I missed it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking while
but
I'm
I
working.
wanted to just at least have you complete that.
No, I
for the
appreciate it.
audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it be known I am ADHD and sometimes don't get all the details.
It's okay. My voice is boring to you.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say it. But
But yeah, and also just the flashback to when he saves her from the car accident.
Yeah.
Like there's such at the heart of this movie. It's like their love is really something that's I don't know,
well, I also
important.
you feel at first kind of like he's kind of being a little too gruff. He isn't being affectionate enough, or he was going to cheat on her with someone or whatever, even though they were separated. But it's kind of cool how it unfolds in a way where you realize how self-sacrificing he actually was without people really knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that he kind of suppressed a lot about himself to make her happy.
Yeah.
Because she does mention in the movie that she doesn't like anything having to do with violence or unnecessary violence, like football.
Mm-hmm.
So he pretended that he did have an injury that kept him from playing. As well as it's kind of threaded into the movie that he suppresses his natural desire to want to be a hero to people because he doesn't want it to affect his relationship.
Yeah.
He loves her.
It's
And I
something
think-
I see it
ahead.
as something like he realized there was something special about him at a very young age,
Yeah.
but decided at that young age that this is something I'm going to put in the back closet and ignore.
Yeah.
And then over time he just forgot that he became used to repressing it, that
Yeah.
he just like, oh,
Which is actually a very relatable thing as humans.
Yeah.
Like that it's just something that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
and him having weaknesses or like human qualities is reinforced by the fact that he actually is weak to like water, or like that's like kind of his kryptonite. He said he almost drowned once, which was true.
It's like not
so. It's
that
like,
it's
oh,
a-
I am like a normal human. It was almost like gave him one thing to latch on to. That's like, oh, clearly I'm normal because I
Right.
almost drowned that one time. Or it's
Yeah. I think the one thing I just slightly wish is that, and maybe this is just wishful thinking and the optimistic side of me. I wish in that early scene right at the beginning where he kind of hits on that girl, I wish that he had, had some success and then he himself decided, well, maybe this isn't a good idea.
I agree.
I wish that had happened instead of it being left up to us to determine.
He's just rejected and then it moves on.
Can I push back against that?
No, I understand.
No, you can't.
I understand the standpoint.
You don't know what I'm going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
And I did not come to this on my own. I was watching the special features and reading stuff. But Shyamalan wanted to establish that the good guys are not always good and the bad guys are not always bad.
Yeah.
In these opening sequences, he's like trying to establish these people as human, whereas yes, David Dunn is technically your protagonist, but he has weaknesses. And then you see the flip side, and it is it's cooler when you rewatch it knowing how it ends up. But with Elijah Price, you feel very sympathetic towards him, where he does end up being the villain, but he's very like he was dealt a bad hand, and he has a great relationship with his mom, and he's like
Definitely a tragic villain.
but you're like, you want to like him because he's, again, he has the world against him. And he was really trying to show that, hey, there's two sides to every person.
good isn't always fully good, bad isn't always
Exactly.
fully
It's
bad.
almost as if the world is in gray.
Yeah. So I liked that, hey, maybe Bruce Willis wouldn't have made the right decision there. But the natural course of the world happened, and
Yeah. But my argument against that is that him taking off his ring and trying to, do a little something already is bad. Like already is not good.
no, it's not good. I agree.
Yeah.
But I think he
but
grows.
at least it would at least show that, he made a decision in the end to not do.
But the thing is, there's a character arc there. He started in a place where he was willing to cheat.
Yeah.
He ends in a place where he's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, but I definitely I'm stuck
it's
in
not
between.
about-
I'm in the
it's-
middle.
No,
Okay,
this
here's
isn't
the thing.
This
It's
isn't
not
a
about-
Spider-Man movie.
No,
it's not.
It's not about understanding why they did it. It's just about what I wanted. Like, it doesn't matter.
So you're
that
not
it's
going to dock
technically-
this movie points for that.
Yeah, clearly.
Okay.
I'm certainly not going to dock
a great
points
movie.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, man, I wish
The weight would have. I agree.
Yeah.
When Noah said that, I was like, yeah. I kind of wish there was at least a little bit of connection.
It's just
back
more
to
satisfying for me,
But-
personally.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Whether it's better for the movie or not is irrelevant in
Yes.
my statement.
All right, let's
Here.
get through to the finale of this movie here. We do have. I want to ask y'all what y'all thought about the scene where their son pulls the gun on him.
Ooh, heavy scene.
Dude, this kid, man, he is so good at acting.
Yes.
Not the kid himself,
phenomenal.
necessarily.
Yeah,
Anyone
yeah.
that can just spontaneously cry is good in my book. I can't do that.
So I heard that in was it the 80s? One of the Superman people playing Superman.
Christopher Reeve? That's the only one I can think of.
I don't know. One of them,
Probably
I
that
can't
one.
remember. Man, I really wish I remembered. I just looked it up today.
Probably Christopher Reeve.
He was in audience, like he was in his costume or something, and a kid pulled a gun.
Oh gosh.
Because he's Superman.
That is terrible.
So that happened in real life, and I believe they said this is what it was kind of.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Modeled
I hadn't read
after.
that. Wow.
So
Gosh, that would be scary.
It's a good
and
idea.
so it didn't. Obviously, no one shot anybody, and they took the gun away and stuff. But that was something that happened.
I like this scene, but I don't like how there's no repercussions afterwards. It's just kind of not talked about at all anymore. It's just...
You can see as a parent, what do you do at that point?
Well, it's resolved
not-
very easily. They take the gun, they sit down, and then it cuts to the next scene, which is completely unrelated to anything that just happened.
He does yell at him in the moment, and I think to him he is understanding where his kid is coming from, so he probably doesn't feel justified in actually disciplining him, because I think he effectively taught him a lesson in that moment.
I just feel like there's more to say there if they were going to take that. I thought they were going to take that somewhere, you know? But it just is, the thread is cut.
And
that's-
Matt, I don't know. The kid is put in a very tough position, and well, not a tough position, but for him, you know, he's probably got all sorts of emotions going on. And I actually think that the parents were able to understand him in that case, and that's why perhaps they were a little more lenient.
Yeah.
So just to clarify my whole thing, by the way, it's George Reeves, not Christopher Reeves. George Reeves from a 1952 show, Adventures of Superman.
What? Okay.
And he
Not
said
80s.
no, way earlier.
Yeah.
And
Well, you said 80s, so I thought Christopher Reeves.
well, I think my brain was thinking Christopher Reeves. But so he said that he was actually hesitant to see children moving forward after an event. In at least one instance, while attending an event, Reeves was approached by a young boy who pulled a pistol on him, not to rob him, but to test the theory that Superman really was invulnerable to bullets. There you go.
Dumb kid.
Makes me wonder what happened in that case. Did he say, "I am not really Superman," or did he say, "Even if I am Superman, you shouldn't do this"?
He said he told the boy that the bullets would hurt him.
Okay.
And that's exactly what Bruce Willis does in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, he's more like, I thought we were just becoming friends. And
Well, no, he
Well-
specifically says, I am not a
So-
superhero. I will die.
Oh,
Yeah.
but the cool thing
wait, no, he
though
swaps it.
is
Never
that
mind.
he, like, I think the wife tries to say you're going to hurt him, and he says, "No, yeah, it's true. Like, I'm impenetrable, but you know what happens if you shoot me? I'm going to go away."
Yep.
And so the cool thing about that is that that's very psychological. And so
Yeah.
usually if someone's not thinking rationally, you have to kind of play with their reality a little bit
Yeah.
and actually find something that will really get them
yeah.
to stop. And that's his connection to his father is like, well, if
I-
you do this, I'm leaving. And
He
that's
don't
the
want him to
only
go.
thing he doesn't want.
I forgot that was his
Yep.
exact
Yep.
word choice.
I
This
got it
is
backwards.
so well written.
Yep.
The dialogue. I mean, it's so well done.
Yeah.
Yep. But that scene is resolved, and we move forward to our. Let's just go ahead and get to the part where David Dunn is fully feeling himself as like, yeah, I'm a hero. Well, he's not. You know what I mean? Just in the context of this movie's
he's a hero.
movie's universe, he's like, okay, I have powers. Let's see what I can do. So he goes to this train station, starts like touching people. That sounds weird, but like, and he's like, okay, this person shoplifted. This person said a slur to someone, and then finally he touches someone who's, oh, this person's either has committed murder or is about to commit murder. That's my lead for the night. And so he finds the location, or he follows the person to the location, and turns out has this teenage girl tied up. He's like spitting beer on her. Both the parents are dead. The kids are nowhere to be seen.
The one he was spitting beer on was the mom.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it
I
was.
actually read it was not.
What?
Nope. So the two parents were killed. The one who was tied up was one of the kids. It was a teenager. So she was alive, even it's confusing, but I looked it up. She is the teenager, and there's two kids who are younger than her.
I
that
guess
were not
we
Kid's a
dead.
teenager and a mom?
Yeah.
I
No,
guess
the
we
parents,
can-
you don't see their death. They're somewhere off in another room dead. That's why,
Okay.
that's when I originally watched this, I was confused by that because it looked like she was alive, and then he unties her
fell
and she
over.
just kind of falls over. She's alive.
Oh.
It
So,
is.
yes, it's confusing, but that's the teenager, and then there's two kids.
It's
But
kind of funny to me how the guy that kidnapped them, I guess, or whatever, not kidnapped, but
Took over the house.
took over the house, is still wearing his
little
inmate
Yeah.
jumpsuit.
It's not-
Well,
no,
it's
he's a
not
janitor.
uniform.
Yeah, he's a
janitor
janitor after.
uniform, whatever it is.
It
Yeah.
does look like a uniform.
It does look like an-
I think that's
prison
supposed to
jumpsuit.
look kind of just, yeah.
But I don't know. If I were a guy doing something like that, I'd probably not use the same clothing I
Well, he's an idiot.
regularly
And
use.
probably he's been drinking a lot, so.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. He
Yeah.
in fact is drinking on screen.
Yeah.
Even.
He's spitting it out.
But yeah, they get in a little tussle. He gets thrown into the pool, figures out that, man, I'm not good with water. The kids.
That's when he
Man.
figured it out. Yeah.
Or-
Wait
or
a second.
tarps.
yeah.
Hey, did you know this is actually all a
lifeguard.
it's a multiverse, and this is within the same, or sorry, it's not a multiverse. It's all within one same universe, connected to signs. He is in fact
An alien.
an alien.
Ah.
That's why he's got strength.
The power.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But he is then pulled up by the kids who
like
see
this.
him as a protector. This is when the music is swelling. It sounds amazing. The kids kind of stand aside, throw the pool pole thing and he just stands up in his trench coat. Looks really cool. Goes back up there. Music's still going. It's awesome. And he like grabs this guy by the neck, and just the guy tries his best to hit him against the walls, but can't shake him because he's too strong. And he eventually incapacitates the janitor dude. He slumps to the ground, and
Let's say the villain.
The
janitor dude. He's not the villain. Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, I know, but
Janitor dude he does not deserve.
Why don't you say criminal?
yeah,
criminal.
Yeah, I like that better.
but-
Good janitor dude doesn't sound bad.
The
Yeah,
evil,
janitor, yeah.
the evil janitor. How about
the
that?
Killer,
Evil
the evil
janitor.
killer rapist janitor.
Can I just call him evil janitor? Why?
Sure, why?
Sure.
It just wasn't enough.
Everyone knows who I'm
did you
talking
know
about.
That tool that he dipped into the water to grab him with, that is actually what that's for.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
grabbing people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
thought that was
It's
for
like
taking
it's
leaves
a
out of
little
the
it's a
water.
little hook thing.
Oh,
That's cool.
Yeah. So you
fun fact.
I
Noah
used to
was
be a
lifeguard.
lifeguard. You use the little hook thing to reach in, and like if someone's drowned and for
Have you
whatever
ever-
reason they're like too deep or something like that, you reach in and you
Have you
grab
ever
them
done
with
that?
No.
Uh,
I have in fact I guess
You have saved people.
I
Quit
have
beating
saved
around the
people.
I
bush.
guess I have saved.
I've
people.
not like really saved because no one's ever been, suffocated.
No one died because you saved them.
But
in
there have
time.
been people that have been drowning, and I dove
And if
in
you weren't there, they might have died.
and got them. Yeah, maybe.
Proud of you.
Possible. But yeah,
but-
that's what that's for.
Yeah. So where was it? He
gets out of the water. He
Gets out of the water.
and then he strangles that guy.
Yeah, and then we have two of my favorite scenes back to back. We already talked about the scene where he's carrying his wife up the stairs, which I love. Maybe my favorite scene of the movie. And
I think so too.
then the next morning where he pushes the newspaper towards his son, like looks at and kind of indicates at the article, and then gives a little like nod, like, "Yep, that was me." And it's just this. His son's like kind of teary eyed. It's just like it's really cool.
loved it.
Just
That is real cool.
yeah. And then that's like I think that's the best crescendo that this movie hits. And even though
It's
Yeah,
so
the-
subdued yet so juicy.
yeah. And then we kind of like we hit the movie's twist where we are confronted with, or he goes to see Elijah, and then Elijah's got all these postings of disasters on the wall, and like he's got his evil, maniacal like computer set up, and he's like fully like, oh, I've got
blueprints.
I've got my purple regalia on, and I look like a villain in my little like wheelchair. And then he drops the bomb like, hey, I was behind all this stuff, and I was.
Well, no, he actually just caused the.
No, he was behind a few of them.
I was making a joke. You said he drops a bomb.
Gosh, thanks.
I'm sorry.
I love you.
I love you too.
But yeah, he was behind at least a few disasters that happened when he was trying to find his opposite. And
he is one of the most nuanced takes on a villain, because he recognizes that he's a villain, but his motivations are so unique.
It's so tragic too, just thinking about it.
It's such an interesting way, because usually you have, the mustache twirlies, or you have, I just want to destroy all the world because resources, which is Thanos, by the way.
What's sad about it though is this man grew up like really just believing in this dichotomy, I guess, and found that it had to have come from a place where like I'm so flawed that there has to be the opposite of me.
I have to be the bad guy.
And I have to be, and he just kind of
he
just
is right though, which is
but
sad.
He didn't have to be.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but he's not wrong.
Yeah, it's just sad to think about that he felt like his only purpose in life was to be the opposite of someone who is represents good or represents like.
Well, I don't think necessarily that his initial plan was to be bad.
No,
and
it
to
wasn't.
be the villain. I think he just realized along the way, like, wow, I am the villain to this guy's story. But he just became desperate to find that person that gave his own life value.
I also think it was like he was a product of bullying. Like people called him Mr. Glass. All this stuff like shaped him into this. Into what he was to be.
And
like,
then you read
it desensitized him to humanity in a way.
All of the comic books that he read, like he couldn't do much, but his mom provided him with all these comic books, which I don't think we touched on that much as far as how that shaped him, and all of his entire business later, I guess, is from the fact that he had all these comic books that when he was a child weren't worth much, and then as he got older became valuable, and that's how he started this shop, is what I'm guessing. Or maybe it's a mixture of that and passion because he grew up reading comic books. Who knows?
It's also fun to think of it from the standpoint of he's not seeing things as good versus evil. Yeah. It's more like what's important is who you are or what you are. Especially in our day and age, it feels like people are more important based on what they've done and who they are and what they're labeled as, what their purpose is, not necessarily whether they're good or bad. That doesn't seem to matter sometimes. Yeah. So it's like because he was a nobody, because he had this really horrible sickness that basically made him ineffectual at most things, the greatest, most important thing to him was finding that purpose. So now he's found his purpose and he's like, oh, now I can actually live, know? So
this is like the cool thing, as well as, the really sad thing about it is that he just wanted to find a hero. That's what he wanted. In fact, he probably saw himself as a good guy, but then he ended up doing anything to,
I went
that.
so far into that.
Yeah, that he ended up
obsession.
becoming a villain, and then he realized that.
He's like, I'm getting older, and I just need to speed up the process, kind of a thing.
And now that he's discovered that he's a villain, he is so enamored with this idea of heroes and villains that he is going to fulfill that role. And I haven't seen Glass yet, by the way, but I assume that that's the direction it goes.
What's really sad is that based off this like delusional way of thinking that where he was sacrificing all these lives to find this person, the fact that he did eventually find him like validated all those
Yeah.
deaths.
No, he
Yeah.
did.
In his
For
mind,
him,
he was like,
yeah.
"Oh, it was worth it." Like,
Yeah. They're
Like,
like,
he-
no.
Yeah.
like the reason he was having that freak out in the comic book store was because he's like, "Man, I killed all these people and I didn't even find like my fantasy that or what I believed could be
Yeah.
is non-existent." Because at that point, they thought that, or like David Dunn was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not this special thing that you think I am."
And the cool thing about that scene too is that it's either him acknowledging that he knows that he is guilty of doing something awful, or he is, he feels really lost because it feels like he's been defeated and there is nobody.
In a weird
Yeah.
way, he might
Either
think
way,
of himself
or both.
as a good guy because he brought about
Yeah,
the
he
hero.
Brought the hero to the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, otherwise it never would have been found.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
He's a very, very interesting character.
We could discuss this all night long. Do we have any final thoughts, though, on Unbreakable before we close out the story portion of this podcast?
Nah, I think we've covered quite a bit.
David?
There's a point where David is walking and he brushes against a kid.
Are you talking in third person again?
Come on, no one wants to hear about that. Please, we're gonna get in a lot of trouble.
Apparently, it is supposed to be James McAvoy's character in Split.
Oh, interesting.
What?
Well, that will come
is-
into
Okay, but that was-
I
conversation
know.
later
It's just
on.
leading in. It's leading into the next movie.
Whether that
No, it is credited. No.
but they've only said that after the fact.
But it is a thing.
To me, that holds as much water as J.K. Rowling saying.
No, I think
whatever she says about
Shyamalan, the second
Harry
he made
Potter.
this movie, was like, I'm going to make this a character in a movie 20 years later.
Well, let's save that franchise talk.
Yeah.
With that said, we're going to take a quick break, and on the other end, we will get into our brief reviews with numbered scores, talk about what critics thought, get into some box office, and then close out with a little bit of franchise talk. So we'll see you then.
See you then.
Welcome back. Let's talk Unbreakable. David, you got our scores in a little bowl there. Pull them at random.
Similar to David Dunn, I have this weird sense where I was moving my hand through and I felt all the papers and I was thinking, whoa, that felt interesting.
Wait, let me guess who you're gonna draw. You're gonna draw me.
No.
If you'd like to hear more David on David, you can go
You can listen to my podcast on OnlyFans. No, I felt this surge of positive energy and I wanted to start off strong, so I went with it. Irina with a 10.
Yeah!
Whoa.
There's no doubt this one is my favorite of all his works. And I don't know, I was pretty much gushing throughout the whole talk on this already. So I'm going to leave a little more of the reviewing to you guys.
Irina, I love that you're not conservative with your 10s.
Yeah, I'm not. I decided from the beginning, if
Like
I
if-
feel a 10, I'm going to give it 10.
Like, if you're really feeling a movie and it doesn't offend you in any serious way, it's a 10.
Yep.
Okay, not like that crazy for 10s with her.
What do you mean?
You said like he made it sound like, if it's somewhat
No, that-
positive 10.
No,
No, the
it's-
thing is, like, no, you go ahead, Irina.
I just don't. I hate the idea. Well, honestly, it goes back to just being graded A minuses on things just because people had to find a reason to have a problem with it, even if it was perfect. So I firmly believe that you should actually give that 100% to something. Like it's
Despite imperfections.
Yeah, and I honestly think some of the imperfections of this are what adds to it in a weird way. Like, I don't know why exactly, but it feels like, you've constructed a piece of artwork. Sure, there are parts of it where you're like, well, that's not exactly what a hand looks like or whatever, but the piece altogether works.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't need to be spotless. So I feel this way about this movie, and I will stay there.
Yeah, you will.
I like it.
Next up, I'm feeling I'm feeling this card, and I'm just having this intense positive.
Yeah, you already looked at it. Just tell us who it is.
I haven't actually. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm just getting a feeling. I haven't looked down yet.
Oh, but you know how people fold the cards. So that's.
I see a 9 from Noah.
And I'm actually gonna go up a 0.5.
Yeah, you are.
Nice.
This movie is very, very close to perfect. There are a couple little, things that you'd have to you have to nitpick to, find something. And even when you're nitpicking, they're not, bright shining lights of a flaw. It's like, it'll be a very minor problem you might have with it. But ultimately, I think just about every aspect of this comes together as exactly as it should. They set up the characters perfectly. The writing is excellent. The direction
Unbreakable, some would say.
Unbreakable, yeah. Just like this movie. Yep. It's just good. I don't know how else to say it. I love all of the characters in this. Not that I love them for what they do, but just how well written they are.
Yeah.
And
you like the writing in this?
No support role is
Too
dealt
small.
with poorly. I just have a great respect for this movie, and I do think it is Shyamalan's best movie. Yeah.
Next up, can tell by the fold. I mean, by the energy emitting from this.
Nice save.
No one will know that this was David's card.
Right.
Could it be? It is a 9.
Nice.
9?
9. I'm gonna stick with a 9, and I'm gonna be probably the lower end, I would assume, or if not, tied with the lowest. The things that I could say about this movie that are amazing have already been said. It is so good. Yeah. The James Newton Howard score is phenomenal. I listened to this for nearly 2 hours today while I was doing stuff. While I was playing Rocket League, while I was making dinner, prepping for this movie. I listened to this score multiple times over. So
it's
good. So
it's
good.
Great.
Very dated, but good. Very good.
It's not
Only the
particularly
beat, only
dated.
the electronic beat. Everything else about it is not.
You're right. It's just that one song, honestly. It's the
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's you wouldn't steal a handbag. Got it. So this movie is so well done. And normally I don't care for the super slow paced movies like this. I loved it. It's so good. Now I'm trying not to say all the good things because I know other people are going to say them. The only detractors for me in this movie, the very, very end, I think that it was so quick.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back to the first time I watched it and I thought this, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember thinking this the first time I watched it, which is, wait, they're brushing over everything after the villain is revealed. Basically, they're like, oh yeah, Samuel L. Jackson's the villain. And then they have the text on screen, and it was like, oh yeah, now David tells the police, and then Mr. Glass goes to prison, the end. And I'm like,
yeah, I get
what?
I guess for me, having seen it a number of times, that didn't register to me as a flaw.
And
but I actually
it's a
understand
personal
that.
thing. It might not register to some people, and I totally get that. For me, it did both times, and that's just a personal touch for me. I would have preferred a little bit more at the end, just a little bit. And then just nuances here and there, I feel like could have been dealt with better between him and his wife. I think little things Noah brought up, I was like, yeah, that would have made this slightly better. There's just little things here and there. But everything they did do, they did perfectly.
Yeah.
I can already just see little things. If I was the director, I'm like, I can see just a little tweak here. So
That's what you really want to be.
I could go to a 9.5, but I'm not. I'm gonna stick with my gut. I'm gonna go with a 9.
Dang.
It's a really good movie.
It's a pretty big gut.
Man, I'm working on it. Just like Bruce Willis.
Don't listen to him, David.
Alrighty, and last but not least, we have somebody echoing my feelings with a very 3D, some would say comic book-esque 9.
9.
Reese.
Yeah, I thought about writing 9 in German, but I didn't. With an exclamation point. Yep. Unbreakable, good movie. Let's crunch those numbers. No, I'm just kidding.
What was that?
No. I really, really like this movie. I also think I need to watch Sixth Sense again, but this is probably my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's better than almost every Marvel movie. It's better than most superhero movies. It's not even a superhero movie. There's one fight scene in this, kind of. It's not even a set piece. The fact that this movie keeps me engaged throughout the whole thing without any superheroics, they're very, the powers are very human. It's like, oh, I can lift slightly more, or oh, I can, maybe choke this guy out. I can beat this guy in a way where, like, he just can't tire me out. He's very, it's very subtle, and I love how there's just a slight heightened nature to both of these characters, Elijah and David Dunn, but they're not like the comic book superhero movies, but you get why they see themselves that way and how they do mirror the comics in a way. It's so good, and it's all done in a very Shyamalan way. This is before he gets kind of full of himself, which I think starts to happen with Signs. He starts to kind of drink his own Kool-Aid. This is still I don't know. It just works, and there's no pretentiousness to it. I again love all the characters. Love that it's just the first act of a superhero of your typical superhero movie, but played to feature length. I think that's such a great idea, and it allows for a lot of character exploration and progression that is normally fast forwarded through in your typical superhero movie.
In fact, it's a prologue.
Yeah, I'm not saying Marvel doesn't make good superhero movies, but Iron Man, he's Iron Man 40% through that movie, and then he's zipping around in his suit.
It's like the difference between a journey and a theme park.
Yeah, there's a mold that superhero movies are made in, and this one knew to break that mold before any of those other ones knew it. This did it in the year 2000.
Yep.
Yes, some superhero movies existed. The Tim Burton Batmans and the Christopher Reeve Supermans were out there, and I guess X-Men, Bryan Singer's X-Men had come out as well, but there was not enough time to react to that movie yet. This movie was like, hey, we know that trope of the superhero 3-act structure. We're going to break that. And it does it. And that's why today it still stands as this just really unique, I don't know, just take on superheroes where it just feels fresh still, and I love that. Love this movie. I don't know how much more there is to say about it. I'm sure I'll look back and wish I had said more, but I stick with my 9 because I do think the ending slightly fumbles it just a little bit, because as David was saying, it's just a little too quick, a little too quick, a little too abrupt. He reveals he's the villain, and it's almost mustache twirly in a way where it's by the way, and now I know my place. And while I half like it and I half don't, where I love how the music's playing, and it's, I like the tragic aspect of it, what it means for Glass as a person, but I'm also you could have just set it up a little better.
There are ways they could have, I think, neatly wrapped it.
Yeah. And again, the before credits, seeing the this is what happened to David Dunn. This is what happened to Glass.
Yeah, I actually think it's not that it ended there. I actually think it's just the fact that they said this is what happened. Mm-hmm. I think, Well, I'm trying to think of what natural what would have been better if they had included an after scene.
I think it happens a little before that, because it almost seems uncharacteristic of Glass to have all this bulletin board with all these pinups of disasters. It's almost too I don't know, just too obvious.
Well, he's supposed to be a comic book villain a little bit. That's supposed to be a symbolic.
All I wanted was him to. What the moment I like about the end is where he's I think it's time for you to shake my hand.
That was so good,
and
I love that.
What I love it so much. The only part that just makes it like you didn't need it, was just to have the surroundings of his room be like, target mark, I'm a villain. Like, no, you didn't need that. All you needed was to show this little montage of what he was involved in.
Yep.
And that's all you need.
Yep.
You don't need, like, they go out of their way to make it look like a villain lair. Just slightly. Because he's got all these computers and these, like, snippets from articles.
I see that slightly differently, which is opposed to what I was kind of setting up, but I think because
if
of that,
he's a supervillain, wouldn't he
it's a
want to
passion.
preserve his...
No, it is a passion, actually.
That's literally
He
him
collects
obsessing.
things.
It's obsessing over trying to find it.
No, but if he sees his place as the supervillain in this world...
Maybe that's why he does it.
No.
Supervillains plaster things on the wall.
No.
Reese,
What I'm
the
saying
point
is
that
if-
he
no.
doesn't see himself as the supervillain exactly. He just wanted to find a hero, and then he, along the way, realized he is the supervillain.
I don't believe, though, that he would want to have all this stuff around to incriminate himself.
I disagree.
Okay, well...
Well, no, he seems like the kind of guy who's just like, once he realized he was a
doesn't
supervillain,
give a
combined with
crap
the
about
fact that
anything
he
else.
was obsessive over this, like, he's like, this is who I am.
Well, he's already killed so
That's
many
all that
people.
matters.
Like, now that he knows his purpose, isn't he going to want to thrive within that purpose?
Reese,
No.
let me
No, like,
let me
he's
give
like,
you,
oh, lock me up
It
now
was
that
all,
I know.
it was all about finding him. That's
let
all
me-
that mattered.
Yeah.
Why?
Let me give you an example, Reese. Serial killers. Wow. Serial killers historically give hints that it's
Dahmer.
them because they want to be found out that
Oh.
it was them.
Yeah, I was gonna say slightly different. Dahmer, like they all keep little trinkets or like things on their wall, with very incriminating evidence everywhere.
Okay, they do that, but literally serial killers, a number of them.
Oh, they
have
wanted-
come,
yeah.
have come forward and
BT
admitted
Oh well,
a number of things.
I was gonna say like BTK or something like that, where they want to be found so people know how genius they are.
No, exactly.
That
That's
kind
what
of
I'm
thing.
saying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see that, but I also don't think he wanted to be caught.
I don't think so.
I don't think
But
they
he-
ever set up any want to not be caught or to be caught.
Yeah, I agree.
They never set that up. In
I think it's
either
more
way.
about the fact that he was obsessive and saw himself as the supervillain. And also, I think he realized that maybe because he's this kind of like stuck in a wheelchair, very vulnerable guy, that he sells comic books. Like, who's going to look for me here? You know? Granted, it was a little out in the open.
I think what he wants is he wants to be acknowledged he wants his life to be acknowledged in some way and to matter, because from the beginning, it has not been. I think he
wants to have a bigger purpose.
Yes, he wants his purpose to be the guy that brought the hero to light, and you know,
Even if it meant him being the villain. I
Even
like
if-
this.
yeah.
I like this.
yeah, I think that's what he views his role to be, and now he's gonna.
Otherwise, what is he?
going forward? Yeah,
Just some
exactly.
guy with broken bones.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to figure out in the sequels.
I like this.
We'll see.
All right. Well, crunch those numbers, David.
I actually crunched them.
I have the list too.
Okay.
You want to announce the number?
I'll do the first part.
All right.
Yeah, so I crunched those numbers. We're at a 9.4 for Unbreakable, which puts it where, David?
So 9.4, that puts us in quite a there's 5 or 6 movies in this range, but the one that's most notable for this is Die Hard at a 9.4. So we
Yeah.
got another Bruce Willis movie at a 9.4. We also have Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl for a few dollars more. Tarzan, 1999. King Kong, and Aladdin.
There you go.
So quite a few good movies in that range, and another Bruce Willis movie. The only other one I think other than all the other Die Hards, that's one of the few.
Awesome. So another high scorer for us. Do we agree with that ranking?
that
there?
would
Woo.
technically put it in tied for 11th out of all the movies we've covered, which is not bad.
We'll have to ask for AJ's rating and see how that changes things.
Honestly, yeah. If he gives it a 10, that'll drastically
I
change
do think
this.
it's in a good range. I think I put it at the high 9.4
That's
of that list.
I did too.
yeah.
I put it at the low.
Well, I mean, either way. I mean, wait. So you'd put Aladdin, King Kong, Tarzan above it?
Okay, King Kong I would put above it. I like King
Interesting. I disagree,
Kong.
but I would put
I
this
think
above King Kong.
I think I gave King Kong a 10.
You probably did, honestly. That one
Really,
was
Peter Jackson King Kong? You wouldn't?
I was the lowest one, I think, if I remember correctly. But
I think you don't like it because it makes you sad.
no, I
All right.
like the movie.
Are y'all ready?
No,
to...
I mean, I think the reason why you put it a lower 9.4 is because it makes you sad.
Okay, based off of this conversation, are y'all ready to be angry?
Yes.
Critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 70% and an audience score of 77%.
You animals.
On Metacritic, this movie has a 62 out of 100 from critics and an 8.3 from audiences. And on IMDb, which is a audience-based score, it has a 7.3 out of 10. Anything to say, Noah?
These people are brain dead. What animals?
Wait,
Y'all
what?
are probably eating mud.
What were the critic scores?
Really? You didn't
No,
remember?
honestly.
Okay, 70 from Rotten Tomatoes, 62 from Metacritic.
No, I was asking for audience versus critics, not...
Oh, 70 on Rotten Tomatoes, 70 from critics versus audience of 77.
God, that's terrible.
Metacritic, 62 from critics and an 8.3 from audiences. Critics on Unbreakable, though, decent reviews, but not as much as I think we feel it deserves. Correct? Is that
where we
fair?
left
Yes.
off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not even close.
So
Well,
the thing
we
is,
all
like,
agree.
the reviews are positive. You know,
But
when
not
you look
positive enough.
exactly, you look at the reviews; they are positive.
Yeah.
But it just like it should be. I feel like we agree that it should be higher.
Yeah, but the thing about saying like there's it's not just that it's it's like lukewarm. You know,
barely positive, if
Imagine
you will.
okay. Which kind of coffee is better? Coffee that's been left out for 15 minutes, or coffee that's been left out 20 minutes, or like a minute, like just fresh.
A minute?
Yeah,
Fresh coffee's better.
Exactly, it's way better. It's way better.
Yeah,
everyone knows it.
But Noah, for what
There's
it's
a
worth,
whole lot.
I think
difference.
history has been kind to this movie. I think people look back on it much more
Yeah, I
with
agree.
much more warmth than they did in the moment.
I agree.
I think it's such a, and I said this at the beginning. At the time, it's felt like a sophomore slump.
Yeah.
And now looking back on it, it feels like a part of the Shyamalan Holy Trinity.
Yeah,
Where
but-
it is Sixth Sense, it's Unbreakable, and Signs. That is almost undisputed.
But the argument though I have against that is that all of these review websites came out a good while after this movie.
I think a lot of the when you come to the early 2000s type movies, a lot of the reviews were of the time. There are some more modern reviews.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes is more specifically what I'm referring
I actually think this movie went up from on Rotten Tomatoes specifically. I think it was in the 60s before, and it has climbed its way into the 70.
Yeah, but it shouldn't. Like Rotten Tomatoes is.
But no,
is
what
like 2010 or
98.
Yeah.
90 Rotten Tomatoes existed in 98.
I preemptively
Not
guessed.
the website.
No,
Okay.
the website.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
No one used it though.
Rarely, probably, but I'm just saying this came out in 2000, 2 years
Okay.
after Rotten
Well,
Tomatoes.
fair enough.
Yeah,
I
all I'm
guess
saying,
I'll
Noah,
be
is
proven
just
wrong then.
to just give you a little bit of something to go off of. It is rising in acclaim. It is not lowering. So at least take that as
Proud of
something.
it.
Okay,
Good for it.
it's not going down. It's going up. Same thing with The Mummy, by the way. Fun fact. That movie.
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor?
No, that movie.
Get out of the way now.
That movie's definitely not that movie that David gave a 7 out of 10 to.
I'm just saying it's less than 25 from the bottom. Just go ahead.
Yeah,
All right,
but
go ahead.
the original Mummy, directed by Stephen Sommers, not the original, but the 1999 Mummy, used to
Brendan
be
Fraser.
Yeah, it used to be rotten, and it finally broke its way into fresh. So that's nice.
Oh gosh, how could it possibly be rotten?
Wait,
Yeah.
did it make its way from rotten to fresh since we started this podcast?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's at like
Hey,
six.
so
David, you made a
weird.
difference.
I did it.
No, but that's the wrong one.
All right, we've spent too long on the critics. Let's move on to box office. This movie released wide on November 22nd in 2000. Also playing were the How the Grinch Stole Christmas, 102 Dalmatians, Charlie's Angels, and The Sixth Day.
Can we talk about
Oh my gosh.
Can we
Grinch?
talk about the weird timing this came out?
Yeah, like it doesn't seem like a.
Late November?
Yeah, it's a weird, November
Wait, hold
movie.
on. It's like literally 22 years from like right now, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
What?
Weird time to release a movie like this.
I'm
Honestly,
blown
you have
away
to.
by
I think the
Grinch
reason.
one.
Yeah.
I think the reasoning for that though is for a potential Oscars play. The later you put a movie out in the year, the Oscar
better
voters
chance.
will remember it. This didn't get any of that, but I think that was like, oh, this could be a big like, oh, it'll play at the Oscars. But
Did they have anything at the Oscars?
Is there any way to look up what
No, it
did
didn't.
win the Oscars?
Yeah,
you can look it up. But it was 2002, so probably Fellowship of the Ring. No, 2000. Sorry,
It would have been in 2001 Oscars.
yeah,
then.
I don't know. But we cannot dwell on that for too long. We got to get into box office. This movie was budgeted at
Gladiator.
Gladiator. Okay. This movie was budgeted at $75 million, which, by the way, $10 million of that went to Shyamalan. $5 million for the script that he wrote, and $5 million for being hired on for director duties. So Disney bought the script for $5 million, which is crazy.
I heard they bought it well before he even they paid him to write it, and he spent some time.
No,
on
I
it.
think they saw the money
did you
that
just say Disney?
Yeah, well,
This is Disney?
This is technically Disney. It's Touchstone, but Touchstone is owned by Disney, so it's like the kind of more adult, like it's where like
adult
the
Disney.
the Bruckheimer movies would be, and
It's where they're like, this isn't gonna fit with our child
Exactly.
audience, so
Yeah.
Princess
but
Bride
we
is
think we
owned by
can make
Disney
some money
now.
off that.
yeah, it's weird to think Unbreakable is actually a Disney movie. It technically is.
That is so weird.
But yeah, $5 million to Shyamalan and $5 million for the script, so he got $10 million for this. And Bruce Willis had to get a lot too, so that's why that budget is pretty big. Even this movie doesn't have a lot of like,
Yeah, they barely do anything.
yeah, there's not a lot of actual spectacle. I could see you making this movie on a much lower budget if you had less, or at least less valuable talent behind it. So yeah, $75 million budget. What do y'all think this movie did worldwide? I'm going to start with you, Irina, since I haven't heard from you in a while.
Before we
Let's see.
start,
Go ahead.
I do want to clarify. Apparently, Bruce Willis made $20 million on this.
It
Wow.
makes sense. He was huge.
So $30 million of this movie wasn't even part of the production.
Bruce
so,
Willis made more than double what the director made.
yeah. So think of this movie as a $40-something million movie.
I gotta say, as good as his performance is, he doesn't deserve that much money.
That's a lot of money.
He was
Proportionately to the other aspects.
He
of
was huge at this time. By the way,
Yeah.
this is when Bruce Willis was like white hot star.
it. He probably, if anything, he probably did bring the majority of
I like-
the box office.
I like how
to
it says
though.
on Google, it said, for this movie, Willis made $20 million as per his request.
As per his request.
Okay.
Irina, how much did this movie make worldwide at the box office?
I'm gonna go 275.
$275. Noah.
That's a good guess. I'm gonna go a little lower than that. Actually,
Yeah,
go a
that
little
my debate
higher.
was like, am I gonna
Just say it,
go
Noah.
lower?
I'll go 300.
Oh, you went higher.
Yeah, I was thinking lower, but I feel like I'm gonna have faith in it
What
just
was-
because Bruce Willis,
What was the original?
75.
75 budget. Just say it.
100.
I hate you.
I took the low end. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's very low.
Look, I mean,
that's
you
where
guys
my
gave me
that's
a
where my
wide
original
range.
that was my original.
Original.
That was my original guess, actually.
Well,
but then
took
I was
it-
like, no, I
Wow,
want to go.
You
I want to go high.
swung. You
Yeah,
swung.
no, I
200
really
million.
swung.
100, 275, and 300.
Yeah.
Irina, you were the closest.
No.
So it was in the 200
How
range.
close?
Yeah. 248 million.
Oh, Irina won that by a landslide.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, high five.
It was a mild hit. Like, okay, not even a hit. They actually saw the numbers as being slightly disappointing. But I mean, this is the annoying thing. Like, he made Sixth Sense. And if you can't expect someone to just like, oh, the next one's going to be just
Pump
as
out
big.
more Sixth Senses, baby.
Like, I think they were thinking, like, man, we got Shyamalan. It's going to be another
Actually-
Sixth Sense mega hit.
You know what it's making me think of a little bit? Not exactly the same, but Get Out versus Us,
Yeah.
which it's like Get Out was just amazing and a phenomenal debut work, basically. And Us was great, but it's still not, it just couldn't be received the same way Get Out was because it was so
Yeah.
unique and such a big experience.
That's a good comparison. Like, I really want to, like, not every director is James Cameron who can just keep upping the amount. Like, I actually think James Cameron's the only director to, like, just keep going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
I was trying to look up, I'm like, all right, what did Spielberg do after Jaws? So I'm like, all right, any guesses what Spielberg did after Jaws?
1943?
You want to repeat that number?
1943? Or one of those, like, it was 1940 something.
What?
Like, he directed a movie called 1943.
No.
Tears of the Sun.
I thought you were saying in the year 1943, but no.
No. Close Encounters?
Yes.
Yeah, Close Encounters, all right.
Okay, I was going to say, like, that's a pretty good follow-up after Jaws.
Yeah, but it's not nearly as big as Jaws.
No, it
still.
isn't.
Yeah, it's still not
it makes sense.
the box office quality
No.
that you would think of Jaws being.
Exactly. And I think this is kind of in line with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, by today's standards, if you had a $75 million movie make $250 million, that is a solid hit.
Yeah.
That's like,
It is.
like, not amazing, but it's solid. Like, that today I would have to imagine with inflation, that'd be like a $400 million take or something like that.
It's weirdly, think about it this way. What if this was the first movie he had released out there and then he had Sixth Sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gosh. Imagine
huge.
all the backing he would have had
Yep.
for everything.
When am I getting Titanic 2, though?
Yeah. But on a positive note, despite the, like, yeah, Sixth Sense was a behemoth, just huge, and this one being just merely, like, yeah, mildly did okay. It had very good DVD sales, and this, like, ever since 2001, there has been sequel talk about this. In 2000, actually, like, after this movie released, I think Bruce Willis was like, yeah, I'd be open to doing a sequel. But Shyamalan was still not down at that point. In 2001, Shyamalan, after seeing the results of the DVD sales, was like, yeah, maybe we could make this thing happen. And it's been, for however long, just been this constant, like, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, kind of like, it's always been kind of in the back of Shyamalan's mind, like, yeah, I could come back to Unbreakable at some point. Out of the 3 original movies that I did, Signs, Sixth Sense, and Unbreakable, Unbreakable is the one I would want to make a sequel to. And Bruce Willis is always talking about, yeah, they keep saying, like, we're going to do this me versus Glass type movie. Still hadn't happened. In 2010, I think it was. Let me check what I have here. Yeah, in February of 2010, this is taken from Wikipedia, so believe this or not if you want. But in February of 2010, Willis said that Shyamalan was still thinking about doing the fight movie between me and Sam that we were going to do, and stated that as long as Jackson was able to participate, he would be up for it. And then in September of 2010, Shyamalan revealed that that an additional villain had been omitted from Unbreakable in anticipation of their inclusion in a sequel, but that character had instead been used for a forthcoming film he was writing for and producing, which we now know to be Split.
What?
Yep.
So wait, he actually had Split planned?
Well, in
To some
2010.
degree.
He had the villain planned.
Yeah, in 2010.
What?
Yeah, it's way after this movie.
Well, still, like, before he had anything else planned, before
Oh, yeah.
Split came out.
He probably had the idea for Split, and then was like, "Okay, I'll add this."
That's still kind of cool.
Yeah,
Which leads to what we will be talking about next week, and that is M. Night Shyamalan's Split.
Whoa. I'm excited.
Yeah, one of the longest waits between sequels. We've done this a couple times, like Blade Runner, where they take a really long break and then finally get to doing a sequel. Not quite as long as the wait between Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, but Split definitely took its time, and many people did not think that this was actually a sequel. But
the very end.
that's the big twist there. With that said, next week, Split. Goodbye, you guys. And sorry, there's no quote from AJ this week unless he decides to send one to you. So, goodbye.